Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
This time, we're going to take a deep dive into the world of multifamily real estate investing.
Okay.
You've sent over a fascinating collection of articles and forum posts,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like you're really trying to understand the controversies
Mm-hmm.
surrounding Tyler Devereux and Ryan Woolley, along with their companies,
Okay.
Multifamily Mindset and MF Capital.
That's right. We're not just looking at like the basics of investing here. We're examining some serious allegations of broken promises, aggressive sales strategies, and even some potentially illegal business practices.
The first thing I noticed
Yeah.
is how much emphasis Multifamily Mindset puts on their mentorship and coaching programs. They're really selling that personalized guidance for aspiring investors.
Right.
What's your take on that?
It's interesting because on the surface, it makes sense. Multifamily investing is complex.
And having a mentor can be incredibly valuable. But the question becomes, are they delivering on that promise of mentorship? Or is it more about attracting students into expensive programs? That's exactly what caught my eye in these sources.
Right.
There are multiple accounts of people feeling pressured into paying upwards of $35,000 for these programs, with some even being advised to tap into retirement funds or home equity.
Mm-hmm.
That seems incredibly risky.
It is risky, and it raises questions about the incentives at play. When a company's revenue is so heavily reliant on these upfront program fees, it's important to consider if their focus is on student success or simply filling those seats.
And speaking of incentives,
Okay.
one of the sources claims that Devereux and Woolley's company, MF Capital, actually competes with their own students for deals. How does that even work?
That's one of the most concerning allegations because it suggests a potential conflict of interest. Imagine being a student paying a hefty fee to learn from these supposed experts,
Right.
only to find yourself bidding against their company for a property. It feels like the exact opposite of mentorship. It's more like they're using their position to gain an advantage.
Exactly. It raises questions about their commitment to student success.
Right.
If they're prioritizing their own profits over their students, that's a huge red flag.
Absolutely.
You mentioned potential legal issues earlier.
Yeah.
One article dives into how MF Capital was allegedly barred from doing business in Texas.
Okay.
What are the implications of something like that?
Well, if a company is barred from operating in a particular state, it usually means they've violated some regulations or engaged in unethical practices. It definitely raises serious concerns about their compliance and overall legitimacy.
Okay, so we've got allegations of misleading marketing, broken promises, conflicts of interest, and potential legal violations.
Right.
It's starting to feel like a pattern, not just isolated incidents.
I agree. It's important to remember these are allegations, but the sheer volume and consistency of these claims warrant a closer look.
Let's dig into some specific examples from the sources you've been analyzing. What are some of the most compelling cases that illustrate these issues?
One that really stood out involves a 188-unit deal in Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay.
Your own experience with this deal perfectly highlights the communication breakdowns and lack of support that many students claim to have experienced.
Yes, this deal was a real eye-opener.
Mm-hmm.
I found the deal, got it vetted by their own underwriter, even got initial buy-in from Ryan Woolley. But then communication went silent. It took weeks of back and forth just to get them to sponsor the deal, and in the end, those delays cost me the opportunity.
Wow.
It felt like they were more focused on collecting tuition fees than actually helping me succeed.
That's a perfect example of how their focus on upfront fees might be overshadowing their commitment to actually mentoring students through the entire investment process.
And to make matters worse, I later heard through the grapevine that Ryan Woolley was telling other students I didn't have my act together. It felt like a classic case of blaming the victim instead of taking responsibility for their own lack of follow-through.
That's concerning because it speaks to their integrity. A true mentor would support their students, even when things don't go as planned. Instead, it seems like they're more interested in protecting their own image.
Another example that really struck me was the story of a student who reportedly lost a substantial amount of money on a deal with MF Capital.
Wow.
They claimed that MF Capital refused to provide additional funds when the lender required them,
Okay.
and a coach even threatened to pull out of the deal.
If true, that's incredibly disturbing.
Yeah.
A sponsor should be there to support their investors, especially during challenging situations. To abandon a student like that raises serious ethical questions.
It definitely seems like when the going gets tough, MF Capital might prioritize their own interests over those of their students.
Yeah.
This pattern of broken promises and lack of support is deeply troubling.
It's certainly cause for concern. These examples paint a picture of a company that might not be living up to its promises of mentorship and support. It's essential to dig deeper and understand the mechanics behind these alleged issues.
Let's do that. Before we move on, I want to unpack how this business model might incentivize this behavior. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a key question. We need to understand how their structure might be contributing to these alleged issues, and if there are alternative models that better align student and mentor interests.
That's a fantastic point. Let's dive into that right after we take a closer look at some of the technical aspects of these allegations.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Before we get into analyzing those incentives,
Okay.
I think it's important to clarify some of the technical aspects of the allegations you've been researching. For example, the concept of sponsoring a deal came up a lot.
Right.
Can you explain what that means in this context?
Yeah, you're right. We should probably break that down
Yeah.
in multifamily investing. A sponsor is essentially the lead investor who puts together the deal,
Right.
secures financing, and manages the property.
Okay.
They typically bring in other investors, like the students in this case,
Right.
to contribute capital.
Okay.
And when a sponsor backs out of a deal, as alleged in some of these sources,
Right.
what are the potential consequences for the students who have already committed funds?
That's where things can get messy.
Right.
Students often put up earnest money to show their commitment to the deal. If the sponsor backs out, they risk losing that money.
Right.
And it can be a significant amount, especially for someone new to investing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And this ties into another technical term that came up, due diligence.
Right.
The sources mentioned that some students felt they weren't given adequate time
Yeah.
or support to conduct proper due diligence.
Right.
Can you talk about what that entails and why it's so important?
Due diligence is essentially the process of thoroughly investigating a potential investment before committing any funds.
Right.
In multifamily real estate, it involves things like reviewing financial statements, inspecting the property, analyzing the local market, and understanding the legal structure of the deal.
Right.
It's the investor's responsibility to make sure they're comfortable with every aspect of the investment.
And it sounds like in some of these cases, students felt rushed or pressured into investing without having the time or resources to conduct thorough due diligence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One source even mentioned that they were given a very limited window to review hundreds of pages of documents before having to make a decision.
Oh, wow.
It's like they were being set up to fail.
That raises serious concerns.
Yeah.
Rushing due diligence can lead to costly mistakes.
Right.
It's essential to have enough time to ask questions, seek independent advice, and verify the information provided by the sponsor.
So even though students are paying for mentorship, they
Right.
still need to be proactive and do their own homework. Absolutely.
Okay.
A good mentor will guide and support the process, but ultimately the responsibility for due diligence lies with the individual investor.
Now, getting back to the business model itself,
All right.
you mentioned earlier that the way multifamily mindset is structured might be incentivizing some of these problematic behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, the fact that they generate a significant portion of their revenue from upfront program fees creates a potential conflict of interest.
Right.
It incentivizes them to focus on recruiting new students rather than ensuring the long-term success of existing ones.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
It's more profitable to keep bringing in new students than to invest the time and resources needed to actually support them through multiple deals.
Exactly.
Right.
And the sources suggest that their coaching program might not be as robust as advertised.
Okay.
Many students complain about limited access to coaches and a lack of personalized guidance.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You'd think that with such high program fees, they'd have the resources to provide more comprehensive support.
You would, but it seems like their focus might be on attracting new students rather than providing ongoing value to those who have already paid.
Okay, so how do we reconcile the allure of mentorship with the potential pitfalls of this particular model? What should aspiring investors be looking for in a mentor or program that minimizes these risks?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of what makes a good mentor.
Yeah.
In my opinion, a true mentor should have skin in the game.
Okay.
Their success should be directly tied to the success of their students.
So instead of relying on those hefty upfront fees,
Right.
a mentor's compensation should be based on the performance of the deals they do with their students.
Exactly.
Mm.
That way, their incentives are aligned with their students' interests.
Mm-hmm.
They're motivated to find profitable deals, provide ongoing support, and ensure everyone involved succeeds.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
It creates a partnership where everyone is working towards a common goal.
precisely. And it incentivizes the mentor to share their knowledge and experience freely, rather than holding back information to keep students dependent on their program.
Okay, so we've established that the traditional fee-based mentorship model might not be the most ideal.
Right.
Are there any alternative models out there that better align incentives?
There are.
Okay.
One alternative is a profit-sharing model,
Okay.
where the mentor only gets paid if the deal is successful and generates a profit for everyone involved.
So in that model, the mentor's compensation is directly tied to the performance of the investment.
Right.
If the students make money, the mentor makes money.
Exactly.
If the deal loses money, everyone shares the loss.
It creates a much fairer system where everyone is equally invested in the outcome.
Are there any other alternative models that aspiring investors should be aware of?
Another option is a hybrid model,
Okay.
where the mentor charges a smaller upfront fee to cover their initial costs.
Right.
But the bulk of their compensation comes from profit sharing.
That seems like a good compromise.
Yeah.
It allows the mentor to cover their expenses while still aligning their incentives with the student's success.
Exactly. And it gives the students some skin in the game as well.
Right.
They're not just passively paying for a program, they're actively investing in their own education and future success.
So when evaluating a mentor or program, it's crucial to look beyond those flashy marketing materials and really understand how they make their money.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Ask tough questions about their fee structure, their track record, and how they handle potential conflicts of interest.
Right.
Remember, you're not just looking for a teacher.
Right.
You're looking for a partner who's invested in your success.
That's a great way to put it. It's about finding a mentor who will guide you, support you, and celebrate your wins as if they were their own.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's about avoiding those who might be more interested in your tuition check than your long-term success.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about the Texas issue. One of your sources claims that MF Capital was barred from doing business in the state.
Right.
What kind of due diligence could a student have done to uncover that kind of information?
That's a great question. And it highlights the importance of digging beneath the surface when evaluating a potential sponsor.
Okay.
In this case, a simple search of public records could have revealed any disciplinary actions taken against MF Capital or its principals.
So instead of just relying on the information provided by the sponsor,
Right.
students should be proactively researching their background and track record.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There are several online resources that can help with this,
Mhm.
including state regulatory agencies, professional licensing boards, and even court records databases.
It sounds like a little bit of internet sleuthing could go a long way in protecting yourself from potentially unethical or unqualified sponsors.
It certainly can,
Right.
and it's a reminder that due diligence is an ongoing process, not just something you do at the beginning of an investment.
So even after you've invested in a deal, it's important to stay informed and keep an eye out for any red flags.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Things can change, circumstances can shift, and it's important to be aware of any developments that might affect your investment.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here,
Yeah.
from the technicalities of sponsoring deals and due diligence
Right.
to the potential pitfalls of traditional mentorship models and the importance of aligning incentives. Before we wrap up,
Okay.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on the broader implications of these allegations.
I think this case raises some important questions about the state of the real estate education industry as a whole.
Okay.
There's a lot of money to be made in teaching people how to invest, and it's attracted a lot of players, some of whom might be more interested in profits than in actually helping their students succeed.
So how can aspiring investors navigate this landscape and find truly valuable educational resources?
Yes, it's a great question.
Yeah.
And one that we'll delve into right after the break.
That was good.
Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So how could aspiring investors navigate this landscape and find truly valuable educational resources?
One of the most important things is to look beyond the marketing hype and focus on substance.
Okay.
Don't be swayed by flashy websites,
Right.
testimonials, or promises of easy riches. Instead, dig deeper into the instructor's experience, their track record, and
Yeah.
their teaching methodology.
It's like choosing a university, right?
Exactly.
You wouldn't just pick one based on its brochure. You'd want to look at the faculty's credentials,
Yeah. Sure.
curriculum,
Yeah.
and the success of its graduates. In the world of real estate education, that means looking for instructors who have a proven track record of success in the specific niche they're teaching.
Right.
Someone who's flipped a few houses might not be the best person to teach you about multifamily syndication.
That makes sense. You want to learn from someone who's been in the trenches,
It
who's
really is.
made
Yeah.
mistakes, and
Yeah.
who understands the nuances of that particular market precisely. And you want someone who's willing to share their knowledge openly and transparently,
Right.
not someone who's holding back information or trying to keep you dependent on their program.
So it's not just about finding someone who's successful.
Right.
It's about finding someone who's a good teacher,
Exactly.
who can break down complex concepts,
Yeah.
and who genuinely wants to see their students succeed.
Absolutely. And it's about finding someone whose values align with your own.
Right.
If you're looking for a mentor who emphasizes ethical investing and building long-term wealth,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to mesh well with someone who's all about flipping properties for a quick buck.
It sounds like finding the right mentor is almost like finding a business partner.
Yeah,
You need to have a shared vision,
exactly.
a mutual respect,
Right.
and a commitment to working together towards a common goal.
That's a great way to put it. And just like in any partnership, communication is key.
Mm-hmm.
You want a mentor who's accessible, who's responsive to your questions,
Right.
and who's willing to provide ongoing support as you navigate the complexities of real estate investing.
And I imagine that those qualities are even more important in the multifamily space,
Absolutely.
where deals can be much larger and more complex than in single-family investing.
Absolutely. The stakes are higher,
Right.
the risks are greater,
Yeah.
and the need for experienced guidance is even more crucial.
Okay, so we've talked about what to look for in a mentor,
Right.
but what about the educational resources themselves?
Okay.
What kind of content should aspiring multifamily investors be seeking out?
I think it's essential to have a solid foundation in the fundamentals of real estate investing.
Okay.
That includes understanding concepts like cash flow, capitalization rates, debt service coverage ratios,
Mm-hmm.
and net operating income.
Those are all terms I've come across in my research,
Yeah.
but honestly, I'm still a bit fuzzy on the details.
Don't worry, that's normal. These are complex concepts and it takes time to wrap your head around them. But the key is to find resources that explain them in a clear and concise way, without overwhelming you with jargon or technical details.
So it's about finding that balance between depth and accessibility. Right.
Exactly. You want resources that provide enough detail to give you a solid understanding of the concepts, but not so much that you get bogged down in the weeds.
And once you have that foundational knowledge,
Right.
you can start to delve into more specialized areas of multifamily investing, like underwriting deals,
Okay.
structuring partnerships,
Right.
and managing properties.
That's right. And the great thing is that there are a ton of resources available, from books and courses to podcasts and online forums. The key is to be discerning,
Ooh.
to do your research,
Yeah.
and to find resources that align with your learning style and your investment goals.
It's almost like building your own curriculum, right?
Yeah.
Picking and choosing the resources that best fit your needs and interests.
Exactly. And remember, learning is an ongoing process.
Right.
The real estate market is constantly evolving, so it's important to stay up to date on the latest trends, strategies, and regulations.
So even seasoned investors need to keep learning and growing.
Yeah.
There's always something new to discover, right?
Absolutely. The best investors are lifelong learners.
Okay.
They're constantly seeking out new information, challenging their assumptions, and refining their strategies.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening.
Yeah, it has.
We've gone from analyzing the specific allegations against Tyler Devereux and Ryan Woolley to a broader discussion about mentorship, due diligence, and the importance of finding credible educational resources in the real estate world. What are some key takeaways you hope our listener will walk away with today?
I think the biggest takeaway is that knowledge is power, especially in the world of real estate investing.
Right.
The more you understand about the market, the more informed decisions you can make,
Right.
and the better equipped you'll be to avoid costly mistakes and achieve your financial goals.
And that knowledge extends beyond just understanding the numbers.
Absolutely.
It's also about understanding the people involved,
Right.
their motivations, and their track record.
Absolutely. Real estate investing is a people business. You're dealing with sponsors, lenders, property managers, tenants, and a whole host of other players. It's crucial to choose your partners wisely and to build relationships based on trust, transparency, and mutual respect.
Well said. And one final thought I'd like to leave our listener with is this.
Hmm.
Never be afraid to ask questions.
Oh, that's great.
Whether you're evaluating a potential mentor,
Yeah.
analyzing a deal,
Right.
or simply trying to understand a complex concept.
Hmm.
Don't be shy about seeking clarification or getting a second opinion.
That's excellent advice.
Okay.
There's no shame in not knowing something.
Right.
The real shame is in pretending you do and making costly mistakes as a result.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of multifamily real estate investing. We hope this episode has provided valuable insights and empowered you to make smarter decisions on your own investment journey. Remember, knowledge is power,
Yes?
and informed investors are better equipped to navigate the complexities of this market and achieve their financial goals.
And remember, a good mentor or sponsor should be invested in your success, not just their own.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.